Sweet Success is brought to you by Hospitality.fm, the podcast network for hospitality professionals.
I'm Jasmine Seliga, and you are listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I'm excited to chat with Jasmine Seliga. She's the founder and CEO of Affixify, an unbiased, algorithm-based platform that matches hotels with hospitality technology providers. Jasmine has spent her entire career in hospitality technology, first selling software herself, later leading corporate sales teams, and even consulting for tech providers directly. Jasmine, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Katie, for having me. I knew when we had our first chat to go over this, I was like, this might be my favorite podcast I've done yet. So I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, that's so kind. The feeling was mutual. I feel like we hit it off right away. And I'm just super excited to talk to you today because I personally think of myself as a fairly tech-savvy person, but having limited experience with the incredible array of tech stack options that hoteliers have, my head kind of swirls. So I was hoping maybe you can start with a 101 level introduction to what hoteliers need to think about when they're planning their tech stack.
Yes, what you are saying resonates. I know, your experience in hospitality tells me that you know so much about this industry. And if tech still kind of blows your mind a little bit right now, that tells you what most hoteliers are feeling. I talk to them every day. So right now, the biggest things that I would say is that we've started calling it the tech puzzle. And that's because it really is a puzzle. You have to determine what are your core systems, because here's the deal. Integration is king right now. And that's because hospitality is fragmented. Our tech puzzle is fragmented. And it's something we have to deal with. Whether that changes in the future, we won't know. But for now, start with your table stakes systems. Now, I would say PMS, point of sale, revenue management is sort of moving into that boat. But only each independent hotelier is going to know that. And then you look at that as these are your key integrations you must have when you're adding on other systems. So you start there, and then you build that stack or that puzzle based on those key integrations. But the one thing I find missing a lot, and I talk to hoteliers about all the time, is also look at what your current partners are doing, because it is a heck of a bigger lift, so much bigger of a lift to go out and demo all these new platforms and come up with requirements. And, it's awesome. That's why we help. But I'm like, before we even come in, make sure you're calling your current providers, because you're already in. See what you've missed, see what they're doing, see what their roadmap looks like, and go from there if that makes sense. But once you know, okay, it's time to build out the tech stack, it's time to add systems, look at those integrations. And then I cannot stress enough, include your team from ground up, because you will have a much higher adoption rate if they have had a say in that process. And then from there, of course, I could go on and on about correct implementation, but that's what I would say. Figure out your table stakes, figure out your integrations, include your team, and aim for really good adoption.
After hosting for more than 2 years, I finally made the decision to switch to Lodgify. And honestly, I should have done it sooner. If you haven't heard of them yet, Lodgify is a property management software built for short-term rentals and boutique hotels. They make it easy to manage your calendar, update cross-channel listings, automate guest messages, connect with OTAs, and even build a direct booking website. What I love most is that it's intuitive, it's organized, and most importantly, it's setting me up for what's next, whether that be adding more short-term rentals to my portfolio or maybe opening a boutique hotel one day. Lodgify is the kind of platform that grows with you. Visit lodgify.com and use code SWEET20, that's sweet like hotel suite, to get 20% off their annual plans today. Check out the link in the show notes for more. And I'm just so excited to hear more about Affixify because it sounds like you're really solving a pain point for the industry in the sense that you just gave a really great lay of the land. There are so many options out there within every kind of vertical, if you will, right? Like you said, PMS, property management system, how many options are within there alone, let alone all the other options that exist. So I guess talk to me about Affixify and what that does for hoteliers as well as for the tech providers.
Yeah. So Affixify is essentially a connection platform. We started out, I was, consulting, and I realized this is getting harder and harder. I've been in software tech for hospitality specifically for my entire career. And so I'm like, this is getting challenging. And not to mention, unfortunately, there's a lot of pay to play plaguing our industry of how do I really know this is the top 10 PMS list or who paid? And that's, that is what it is, but it became so challenging. So the vision behind Affixify is this truly unbiased, truly, no pay to play resource for our industry to connect with partners. We're going to be adding consultants here in this next month, connecting with people that are actually a fit for your business. And the heart behind that is that when a buyer, so a hotelier, gets on the phone with a tech provider, they already know that it's a qualified partnership because we've done that legwork for them. That's the heart behind Affixify. And we do that through this algorithm, which we talk about a lot. But our entire premise is that we wanted to cut through the fluff. And I love marketing, right? But there is a lot of fluff out there. And we wanted to help hotels figure out what really is my best tech solution based on my needs, if that makes sense. And so that's what we're doing.
And was there a singular aha moment that made you think we need to build this or at least start to build this now? Or maybe we're not waiting for the white knight on the white horse to come in and save us. We're going to build this ourselves. Or was it just a career spent watching it get harder and harder and watching more and more pay to play players come out into the space?
I had a pretty fun aha moment, and I actually love that because I can go back to the date. So it was November 12th of 2021. And this is funny, but at the time I was very much a hybrid. I have kids, so I was stay-at-home mom, but also a consultant. And that morning I was working and I knew I had to end at 10 o'clock because I was taking my kids to the zoo. Like, I'll never forget this. And so that morning I'm working for a client and I'm looking through an RFP, and I'm actually in an RFP platform. Now, this is not a hospitality platform, but I'm like, hey, where is the part of this platform that says, here's what the buyer needs and here, can you do this? And there was none, right? There was not. And I'm like, shouldn't there be like a percent telling this buyer that this company I'm consulting for is the right fit? And I'm like, okay, we had already been, and I say we, my business partner and I, we'd already been kind of thinking about doing this kind of thing on a spreadsheet. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, there needs to be a platform that shows a percent match. Like, there needs to be a platform that enhances this. And so I literally call her on November 12th, 2021. I'm like, hey, I'm about to leave for the zoo. My in-laws are about to be here and I need to tell you my idea. And she's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, no, really, like, I have to get this out right now. And that was my moment. And so a culmination, of course, through the years of recognizing a need. Gosh, how many times did I have hoteliers call us saying, like, which PMS should I use? Which PMS do you think? But this is the moment where I realized, so it's like 9:00 a.m., like, this is what we're going to do. And my affirmation was that Stephanie, my co-founder, was like, yeah, like a platform. I love it. This is brilliant. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And that, I don't even think I ever really like asked my husband, like, what do you think? I was just like, guess what we're going to do? And he's amazing. And he supported me. So here we are.
Honestly, I love that story because so many people, probably myself included, would have had the exact same experience that you did. And I would have been like, oh, someone needs to build that. And instead of doing that, you picked up the phone and you were like, guess what we're building now?
I did. And I naively, I mean, I can't even, who cares? I'm going to say it. So I set a $10,000 budget. I said, we could totally build this for 10 grand. And now I'm just completely laughing at myself. But that's how passionate I was like, let's just take like 10 grand and do this. And I kind of thought it would be a tool we used for our own consulting. And of course, now it's grown in this amazing thing, which is just, it's such a cool testimony. But yeah, here we are. So I can attest that 10 grand is not enough to start a tech company for my friends listening, but the zeal was there. And I think that kind of looking back kind of makes me laugh, because I love that my first thought was not, how do we get the money? It was like, here we go. Let's just build this, whatever it takes. So,
I really like that, because I have to wonder if you would have thought this is going to be the business as opposed to this is going to be a tool we use. And this is going to cost us, I don't know, 100,000, 400,000, whatever it actually did cost, versus we can build this for 10,000. I wonder if it would have felt too overwhelming that you wouldn't have gotten started. And then I imagine once you guys got started, you realized these things, but you were so far down the path and really believing in what you were doing that you were like, well, we'll figure it out.
You spoke, it's like you knew my journey when you said that. I have many times said the words. I mean, even recently, I have said, had I known, because I have friends, and now I have founder friends that they started knowing they wanted to have a tech company. I mean, I just talked to a brilliant founder in short-term rentals last week, actually. And she said, oh yeah, I've always been an entrepreneur. That was what she did in college. She was an entrepreneurship major. That was not me. And so I kind of think there's beauty in being naive. I really do. Kind of like becoming a new parent, where I didn't read books, by the way, on that. I just was like, we're just doing this. Like, we're just going to have kids. And that's kind of how this was for me, is I'm not going to go think it over. I didn't know what I didn't know. I just jumped in with both feet. And yeah, had I known then what I know now, I would have been like, nope, not doing this. And it's a wonderful journey. It's just, I mean, having a startup, especially a tech startup, is absolutely, it's no joke. And so, yeah, naivety can be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about your journey in entrepreneurship. And I know that you told me shortly after launching the idea for Affixify, you were pitching it at HITEC. So how did that go? How was the preparation? What led up to that moment? And then how did the actual pitch go?
Thank you for asking. So when I graduated from Baylor University, so 48 hours later, I started an internship. And that internship was with a tech company in hospitality. So I'm 23 years old. I'm telling my dad, I want to move to Chicago. I want to be in medical sales. And he's like, you don't have a job. You need to go find a job. So I get this internship through my dad's connection, which is just amazing. And the CEO, who is a very meaningful person in our lives, he introduced me to my husband. I mean, he's just an angel. But
wow.
He said, I know you're new. I know you want to go into medical sales, but would you go to HITEC? And I was like, sure. Like, I love to travel. Let's do this. And I was in Maryland. I was in Baltimore, 2012. I show up, I know nothing, and I start to like fall in love. And then, so I keep going, right? Each year. And obviously I stayed. And I hear one year, probably a year or two later, I think it was the first year they did it. I hear over the announcements at HITEC, like, the E20X pitch competition starts in an hour. And I vividly remember thinking, I could never do that. Just, it's so funny. I remember thinking, who in their right mind would get on stage and share their company? I mean, I just thought that's absolutely wild. So then fast forward, never say never. That's why I never say I won't drive a minivan, because I'll end up in a minivan, right? So so fast forward, last year, we knew we were launching, and I just knew, I knew that this was a beautiful, amazing way to get Affixify out to our industry. And we're bootstrapped, so we don't have the marketing dollars a lot of companies have. So we hired an incredible advisor, Jason Imanis. He was with Gain Advisors. Now he's with SHR. He's their head of North American marketing. And I'm like, Jason, I think we're going to apply for E20X. And he's like, this is amazing. Well, I mean, I spent hours, just like hours on the video entry, and like, I just put my all into it. We put our all into it. And I kind of knew we got accepted beforehand. I don't know if he knew, but Jason reaches out to me and he's like, some big things, you guys are making big waves. I want to make sure we have you on my podcast. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then I'm getting like, and all of a sudden I get this email. So I'm like, I wonder if he knew. Maybe he didn't know. And it's like, you're accepted. And I cry. I call my business partner, who at that time was working a full-time job. now she's with us full time and she's crying. We're like, oh my gosh, it's like huge. 1,000 people in this room are about to hear about us. So I started the journey of prepping. We get to HITEC, and it's so beautiful because it comes with a booth too. So like you get this incredible setup, you get networking. People come to talk to you just because you're an E20X. It's really an entrepreneur's dream. And I was so nervous, although I could talk to a wall, but it was scary, And so we went to that room. It was open. It was on the main stage every day that it was empty. And I stood on stage and practiced. And I was first up because Affixify, they went in alphabetical order. It's like 8:30 in the morning. And it was awesome. I had an incredible time. Practice really helped me. I think we really got our message out to the industry. We did not win, and that's okay. There were some amazing competitors. So I feel like we made some great friends through that. One of the winners, H2O Connected, Susan Springsteen, is one of my great dear friends now. We met through that competition, but we're still closing deals from that. In fact, just about a month ago, we had a management company deal come through because of E20X. So it's been very fruitful, and I think that really propelled us to the industry. So very nerve-wracking, but so worth it.
When was that?
That was June last year. So June.
Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned, obviously, you guys were first because Affixify starts with A. I love the name because it makes me think of Elf when he's like, "Ooh, that's fun to say." Like Affixify, it is really fun to say. What does it mean, or how'd you come up with the idea for the name?
Yeah, it is really fun to say. And I'm so impressed that we get a lot of interesting pronunciations. So you've said it spot on. Most people think it's affinity. And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. But
read a little closer.
I'm like,
there's an X in there.
There's an X in there. Actually, someone at my church said, hey, did you know like X is really good in marketing? And I'm like, no, I did not know that. We just named it. So again,
and when you said we were A and we were first, I was like, oh, I wonder if that was part of the thinking behind it.
It wasn't. And that has served us so well because the number of times we're included in like a press release or a post and then we're first it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the name came, and we laugh about this too. My first idea was to name us Software Connect, which is very boring. Imagine today you're interviewing Software Connect. Like that's just boring.
No.
So yeah. And thankfully, thank you to GoDaddy, that domain did not exist. That's kind of how this happened. So I'm like, okay, connect, anything connect. And every domain is taken. So I start looking up synonyms, and that's really how it happened. And I'm like, oh, affix, to bring two things together. That was what we were trying to do. And so to affix, well, you can't really call your company Affix, and that's kind of a weird name, but I knew I wanted that in the name. And there's this trend, a lot of companies simplify and pulsify, they have that ify at the end. Mm-hmm. So I try out Affixify, and I'm like, oh, I love this. And anyway, I sent it to Stephanie, my co-founder, and she loved it. Everyone loves it. So we don't get the domain. Affixify.com is taken. To my friend, whoever owns it, please respond to me. It's taken, but we get Affixify. We have Affixify.net, and we were hoping to own Affixify.com at some point, but loved it. I jump into Canva and I create a logo, and that's the logo we still use. That's really
wow.
So yeah.
But this is amazing because it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like having the idea, taking action, assuming it would cost a whole lot less than it ended up costing. It's like you didn't let a lot of the things that stop people from doing something stop you. You're like, well, I can create a logo. Well, I can get the domain name. Well, we can choose a different name if Software Connect isn't taken, which I'm very happy for you. It was taken as well.
It's right. Yeah, you're so right. I think for anyone listening, just remember that you don't have to go by this playbook. In fact, for a long time, I felt very insecure or not superior because I'm part of a few founder groups now. And I hear so much about, we raised our first round, we raised our second round. And I was recently telling another founder, sometimes that will get to you a little bit because you're like, well, we've chosen not to raise. Are we the weird kids? Are we, are we not as successful? And we've had a couple opportunities come our way, but we just feel very strongly that keeping our heads down and creating our own revenue will build what we need to build.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see that even that, it's okay. It's okay if we're the one company that's not doing a raise because
Yeah.
we've got a different plan. And so everything we've done has been unconventional, but it's working for us. So,
I think that comes with age too. I feel that a lot lately of, 10, 20 years ago, I would have been like, well, I have to do it this way because that's what everyone else does. And now I'm starting to be like, well, what feels right for me? What feels good for me? And that's the path I'm going to take. And maybe it won't work, and maybe that's okay. Or maybe it will, and it will work in my way and in a way that
mm,
feels much better to me. Or maybe the way that quote unquote works would never have worked for me because it doesn't feel correct with who I am.
agreed. I could not agree more. I do think it's an age thing. And I think, I was telling my son, my middle son is just precious and fun and all of these great traits, but I noticed that he definitely likes to be accepted. And that's something that I always struggled with all of these,
Mm,
many years. And I try to encourage him now, having understood what that's like. Like I'm on this journey to living unoffended and not people pleasing. That's one of my things as I enter into my late 30s. And I tell him, like, you are uniquely you. His name's Aiden. And almost every day I say, you are Aiden. You are uniquely you. You do not have to be anyone else and you don't have to strive for people to like you. And I don't know if it's resonating, but I kind of like wish I could have told myself that at 30.
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's what parenting is a lot of the time. It's like, what did I need to hear that I didn't hear? And is he listening? Probably not,
Yeah.
because no child listens to their parent. But I feel like as we get older, all of a sudden, the
Yeah.
wise words of mom and dad come back around.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah. And I was blessed. My parents probably said the same things to me, and I probably did not listen either. So I don't know. I don't
So
think there's a
true.
pop quiz, but
So going back to HITEC, that first time you were there that you thought I could never do that, was that about a fear of public speaking? Was that I won't be an entrepreneur? Was that I would never have an idea that would be worthy of that stage? What was the motivation behind that immediate no?
so this really loops into fear. And it's a topic in my life. And, I mean, we'll just get deep, right? Like, I have often struggled with this sense of fear. And probably what I was just saying, it goes back to a little bit of that people pleasing side, this fear of, yeah, I mean, I don't know that no one ever said to me, like, you can't do something, but I always kind of stuck to what I knew I could do best, what I knew I could be successful at. And I'm a person that always tends to have a fallback because, and I'm not anymore because you can't be that way when you're doing what I'm doing. But I think that this fear, I've had to really work on letting that go in my life. And so that was probably what it was, if I have to be really honest, a combination of everything you just said. Like, well, number one, who would get on stage and share their deepest idea? I mean, that just feels scary, right? It's like holding your newborn baby up to 900 people. That's kind of how it feels. And number two, what if the idea fails? And number three, I always wanted and had an intrigue for public speaking. My mom's a speaker and an author, but at that time, I did have a fear of that. Now I do it
Mm,
often enough that I start to enjoy it. But at that time, yes, all of those things. But I do think it's rooted in fear. And I think that's probably, if a lot of people were honest, if they could eliminate the fear, how many more things would they do to
yeah,
innovate or start things or change? I mean, world changers, right? So I
yeah.
encourage kids to be innovative because we need that kind of naive innovation. But that was, what it was at the time. And I guess it's just grace that I've pushed through that.
It's also, I think it's those moments where we're scared of something and we do it anyway.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you're like, oh, this is what it's all about. This is how you know you're actually living. But in that moment, you are terrified and you're like, why did I sign up for this? That was a really terrible idea.
100%. And it's usually when you're smack in the middle, you can't like do anything but keep going through. It's like that
Yes.
Six book. If you have that book, can't go over it, can't go under it, got to go through it. We talk about that at home all the time. Like when I get to a hard spot, my husband's like, can't go over it. I'm like, thanks.
I love that. My daughter sings that song all the time. So now that has a whole new meaning to me and I love it. But it's so true. I spoke recently at Level Up Your Listing Summit and leading up to it, I was nothing but excited. I grew up dancing, so I feel like very comfortable on a stage, or so I thought. And then I realized right as I was about to go on to the stage that I haven't done public speaking in a couple of years. I used to do it a lot when I worked for Starwood and for Marriott, but less so now. And when I got on that stage, I was terrified and I was waiting for like after 3 minutes or so, those nerves to start to dissipate. And they didn't. And I felt exactly like you said, where I'm like, well, you're here and everyone is staring. So just keep going.
And no choice. I think
No
in those
choice.
moments too, if you think about it, then you really get, so you just almost have to like go for it and just,
That's it.
okay, here's what we're doing.
And you said you spend a lot of time now with other founders. If you had to give a fellow founder a pep talk, maybe they've been told no for the 10th time, what would you say to them? And I think it probably goes back, like you were saying, what are the things you needed to hear along the way when you were getting no's? The next time you're traveling or celebrating an important occasion, book a photographer photo shoot. They make it easy to capture memories by connecting you with hand-picked professional photographers in over 350 destinations around the world. I should know. Capturing memories with family and friends is super important to me, and I've booked photographers from Maine to Paris to London. A photographer shoot is an essential part of every trip I plan. They also have an incredible affiliate and travel advisor program. Add a photo shoot to your customer's next itinerary and earn 10% commission. Visit flytographer.com/sweet success for $25 off your first shoot or to sign up as an affiliate or travel advisor. That's flytographer.com/sweet, like hotel suite success.
Yeah. So my biggest thing would definitely be try to eliminate that fear. My next biggest thing would be slow down. And that is the one thing that I am new at. I am a fast talker, fast mover. I mean, just today, my husband, I'm spilling like breakfast. He's like, please slow down. That's just who I am as a person, right? But I've read this book recently and I'm almost done with it, but it's called Sacred Pace. And it talks about the pace at which we move and make decisions. And I've sent it to multiple founders, friends, business people, because it's like we are in a world and an environment that says, I mean, you'll hear it all the time as an entrepreneur, like think of an idea and move fast. And while some of that is true, when I move fast, I make mistakes. And that is just reality. So I would tell someone, take whatever big decision you're making right now. And again, I'm like brand new to this. So I'm not nothing I'm saying. I say this humbly, right? And slow it down. And whatever steps you typically would take to make a decision, slow those down. We're in a generation that I listen to podcasts on 1.5, right? like bring it down to 0.5 and make your decisions slowly. The other thing I would encourage is make sure you have your habits set. That's also new for me. Make sure you have habits, whether that's personal, work, but if you're living in chaos and you're trying to make quick decisions, you're just going to feel like a wreck. So I would tell you habits, slow down, and eliminate fear. And all of those are things I work on and I'm working on every single day.
Yeah, it's not something that you get to a point where you go, check, done them all, let's move on. It's a work in progress. And I like what you're saying too, because it goes back to what we said before in terms of do things your own way. I think we're coming out of the tech boom where you have the Facebook posters all over the wall saying, move fast and break things. And you're saying, actually, for me, it doesn't work. That's not the way that I want to be. It doesn't mean you're not moving fast in certain things, but on the things that matter, sometimes it really is about slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. Slow down. Think about listen to your gut. How are you feeling led? And it's okay. We have more time than we think we have to launch an idea or get something out there. And sometimes with time, those ideas change and evolve. So time can be really good. There's things that I thought we had to do a year ago with our product that has completely changed now. And we never did it. And it was okay. Like, it's okay. So
I feel like I really needed to hear that. We have more time than we think we do. I like that sentiment. And I guess sticking on that train, if you look back to when you first were launching or building the company, is there anything you would have done differently in those early months, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, there's one thing that stands out. And the only thing I would have done differently is so let me back up. We're a marketplace business model, which I actually, again, I mean, you will just laugh how many times listening back to this that I didn't know what I didn't know, but I didn't even know that would be what we are. But we have two customers. So we have technology providers and we have buyers. Now we're adding a third, we're adding consultants. So it's funny, we're just complicating it, but in a good way. I knew that our paying customer, who is the vendor, and by the way, no pay to play, just reiterating that, but they pay us for this vetting process we can talk about sometime. I knew we had to get to the paying customer. That's a no-brainer. I thought, let's focus on them. And once we get the vendors, the hotels will come. What I wish I would have done different is try to actively grow both sides of that market together. Because what happened is we started selling to tech providers about 10 months before we started selling to hotels. And unfortunately, what that did is there's a lag. Every pipeline has to build. And so we are just now seeing like a lot more fruits of the labor, and it's been about 10 months. So if it takes 10 months to a year to grow the customer base, at least in our model, I really wish we would have taken a holistic view instead of just calling on the tech providers first. And so can't go back. There's nothing we can do now, but if I were to launch another model like this, I would say definitely grow both sides at the same time.
It's hard. I imagine it's a bit chicken and egg too, because if you get the hotels on board, they're going to want to jump into the software and learn. And if you only have 1, 2, 3 tech providers on board, you risk them being like, oh, this isn't actually helpful to me, versus the way you did it, which was, we've got a really sizable amount of data in here now for you to tuck into. So maybe you should have done it that way, or maybe the way you did it was the way it was meant to be.
Such a good point. Who knows? I mean, you're actually right on that, because I do think back HITEC the year before we weren't on stage. We didn't have a booth. I went as a consultant, and I met with a few friends, met with a hotel group out of Canada that we had known for a long, long time, former customer. And I told them what we were doing. They were on it. They're like, we're looking for a PMS now. We want to use this. And then I had to say, okay, well, we're actually not ready because we don't have any PMSs yet. And I'm texting their decision maker, and actually we never got that. They had to move, right? They couldn't wait for us. Right. So you have a good point too. And who really knows? I think.
Yeah. What was the first moment that you thought this is working?
Last quarter. No, I think.
Have we felt that way yet?
It's starting.
I feel like as a founder, you're hardest on yourself, where other people are going to go, it's working. And you're like, are you sure?
Honestly, yes. So one big moment when we were like, oh my gosh, was like right after HITEC last year. We had one of our very first, like in the first 5 days, someone went on and shopped for a PMS. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is cool. Like, this is really cool. This is going to work. So that stands out. And yes, of course, it's a building journey. And then this past quarter, I have to say, one of my most solidifying moments was Stephanie, my business partner, put together a progress report basically that said like, hey, Q1, here's all the things and the ways we grew. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is like, and I think that's probably for me. So I don't know that it was a moment as much as it's moments where you pause again, slow down, look at how far you've come. And remembering when we had our very first vendor, right, say yes. I was like, this is amazing. Now we have a pipeline of 98 vendors. When we had our very first shopper, now we have 40 hoteliers who's representing 450 hotels. Like, those moments are, I think, when I'm like, oh, okay, this is a thing. This is working. And honestly, being like the honor of talking to you and partnering with Hospitality FM, those kinds of things are also pinch me moments where I'm like, okay, this is working, because people are noticing. So
it's true. We continuously move the goalposts on ourselves, right? And everything you said of in the beginning, just signing one tech provider was a huge deal. and now you have nearly 100, and you're probably like, but our goal says 500 and we're not there yet, versus saying, wow, we're at 100, and once upon a time
Yeah.
one really meant something. And I think you're right. It goes back to what you said about slowing down, because we're so constantly go, 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 do. We rarely lift our head up and say, wow, look at everything I just accomplished. That's pretty good. Now let's go back, heads down, and keep going. But let's survey the landscape a little bit.
Yes, I love that. Yes, take a moment, whatever smell the flowers. Like, I think there's a saying we use in our house that plants. So if you think about planting a tree, they say, and I'm like a rookie gardener, I'm nowhere near a green thumb, but they say in the first year they sleep, in the second year they creep, and in the third year they leap. So sleep, creep, and leap. And so we always go back to that. My husband and I in our home, especially with the business, is like, okay, sleep. And is it creeping? And then it's going to leap. But you're not going to see that growth unless you look, right? Like we planted some apple trees back there, and I looked at it. I'm like, these look really good. And he's like, oh, it's their leap year. We're in year 3. It's their leap year. But if I hadn't looked, how would I know? So
It is. It's so wild how quick time goes. My daughter is about to turn 3. And you're like, how is she a person? Like she was this blob of a baby not that long ago. And we blink. But if we don't start something, if we don't plant the tree in the first place, we don't get to blink and get to the leap year, like you said.
yes. Oh, and congrats, by the way. 3 is 2.5 to 3 is I'm in that same boat with my youngest. So it's fun, wild. They have opinions. It's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. 90% of the time it's wonderful. 10% you're like, you might break me today.
We're like, I call my almost 3-year-old, like he's kind of the king of the castle sometimes. And even his older brothers are like, what does Judah need? But anyways, yes. So I agree. And I do think it's that. So yes, it's that first step. We all want like the rain of success, so to speak. But if you never put the seeds in the ground to start, nothing's going to come up. And I'm really into this. I mean, if you saw my LinkedIn post last week, like I'm really into this like plant parallel, because it's so true. I think there's things in nature, there's things that we can parallel, but if you're not planting those seeds, then you can't expect anything to sprout up. But so we have to be faithful. We have to show up every day. Stephanie calls it being in our seat, right? We just try to be in our seat every day, do what it is we know we need to do, and trust the rest will come.
What I like about it too is we see so much of people chasing that quick fix, easy button. They want the outcome, but they're not seeing all the work that you guys did behind the scenes. And I mean that in terms of your career too, all the time that you spent learning and seeing the problems, and even finding out HITEC existed, and all these things were those seeds leading to actually thinking of Affixify in the first place. And if you think about being an entrepreneur, it's not easy, and I don't think it's for everyone. So you feel like now that you're very much in it, now are you looking back at those seeds and saying, oh, I was always meant to be an entrepreneur? Or what type of people do you think make the best entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So that's so interesting you asked that, because I look back on my journey, which we're 13 years into my hospitality career. That's actually not that long, but I look at the relationships and the decisions, and it goes so much beyond the titles. It's the teams, the people, the connections. And it's like, oh, this was being built all along. And my dad calls it the next stone in the path. I always just saw the next stone in the path. I never saw A to Z, and I still don't. I never thought I would do this, but when I look back and I'm like, oh, well, I was placed in a company where it was a startup, and I got to watch it grow to mid-size 50 people. I got to sit in as they were acquired by Amadeus, huge company. I got to learn about selling. I got to lead a team, and then I met this person, and all of these things suddenly like providentially lead to where I'm at. And so, yes, I do believe it's always been, and I'm open, like I'm a faith-based leader. It's always been in the plan. I just never saw it. And I think I don't think I'm here yet, but I think the people that make the best entrepreneurs are the ones that just come in ready to go all in, and they don't listen. I think we get very overwhelmed with what's on social media. I mean, I tell myself, like, LinkedIn is still a social platform. I got to be careful. And I think the people that don't think too much, and honestly, I think it's probably the most humbling thing you can do. So if you go into it ready to roll up your sleeves and you might be the best COO ever, which is Stephanie, but you're wearing 10 hats because that's what, that's what you do. I think those are the people that make it. The idea and all of that, those are good, but I think it's the person, the grit.
Yeah. And when you're talking about your career before Affixify, and you were just mentioning your 3 sons, when we first spoke, you told me about how you had 2 of your children within 15 months. And during that same time, you also successfully achieved 2 business acquisitions, which all of that makes my head swirl and makes me kind of bow down to you as the chief multitasker, because that's incredible. As a fellow mom, just wow. Tell me more about that time and what that felt like, I guess. Did that make you feel empowered and you were like, we could keep doing this, or were you just exhausted?
Yeah, I was opposite. I wish I was empowered. No, I was kind of a mess, because when I say we, I'm talking about Stephanie, my co-founder, because we've been in it. I mean, that internship I talked about, I met her then and we've never left each other's side. So Our CEO came to us and he's like, I'm going to sell the company. We kind of knew that was coming, but of course, you're very hush hush because in a small business, people get very worried. Sure. And so he asked us, can you come into this process and help me sell it? So Stephanie was the integrator. I mean, she was doing all of the PM, all the legal. She took so much on. And I was the one standing up there to these potential companies saying, buy our company. And you talk about the scariest sales pitch you've ever done. I'm looking at my CEO, like, hope I said that right. And I'm pregnant. I'm expecting my first child. We're selling this company behind closed doors. And yeah, I mean, I was emotional. I was tired. The sale of the company was final about 6 to 8 weeks before I had my first son, Gideon. So you can imagine. And I mean, I'll tell you, real life example. We had brought in a really great fractional CFO to help us. And some of the sales numbers that I reported had Salesforce is a very long story, but they had doubled a couple numbers. So it made our numbers look bigger than they were. We fixed it, right? We did the right thing. But I mean, yeah. I'm carrying the weight of this because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the one that provided that report. And I am just sobbing in front of the whole team, right? Sure. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I was shown nothing but grace. I mean, it was like a blip on the radar. He fixed it. We went back. It was no big deal. I mean, but that's when the pressure just mounted. So then I go on maternity leave. I come back. We, at that time, were purchased by TravelClick. I'm figuring it out. I have a baby at home. I'm literally leaving work on my first day back from maternity to go nurse because my mom was like, so I'm like a mess and praying, I really want to be done with this. And I just wasn't done. It wasn't done. And then they come to us and say, we're selling again. So all of that being said, I wish I could say I was just graceful, but I wasn't at all. And then I had my second son, Aiden, and on maternity, I'm you're not supposed to do this, but I was taking calls with our sales assistant and she's like, we need your help. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. So I stepped down, which was a very hard decision on my own. And I had a job waiting for me. It was going to be a great position at Amadeus. And I just was like, I can't. So I wish I could say it was roses and empowering, but it was more grueling. Just get through the next step,
Keeping up with online reviews across platforms is tough. But FeedCheck makes it easier by bringing all reviews from all channels into one place. In addition to tracking your own feedback, you can even monitor competitors to see how you compare. They provide deep insights into customer sentiment, trending topics, common issues, and patterns that might otherwise be overlooked. Plus, real-time alerts mean you can respond quickly before things escalate, and AI-powered suggestions help you craft better responses. So, if you want to stay ahead of your reputation, book a demo with FeedCheck at feedcheck.co/sweetsuccess or through the link in the podcast notes. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. I mean, to survive that is grace right there. But literally, to think about having one baby at 15 months, let alone two babies and two massive business acquisitions, and just the upheaval that brings to your personal life too, of thinking about salary and work and what's next, etc. In a weird way, and this is probably the publicist in me always having to spin things for the positive, but in a weird way, it probably very quickly showed you what was important. Like you had these two little guys at home, and then you had this like mess happening, and you're like, you know what? I think I need a break after all of that.
It did. You're spot on. And I feel like you can relate, as a very career driven person, and hilariously, as someone that said, like, I'm never having kids, I'm never getting married. And here I am, like, with the love of my life with all these kids. I was like, for me to stay home. So I did. I stayed home for 18 months before I launched my consulting company. I'm like, that is wild. I mean, that just blows my mind because, right, I said never say never. I would have never thought, but you start to focus on these little guys need me. And I had a wonderful nanny. I was like heartsick every time I had to leave or travel or be in a meeting, and it just wasn't right. And it was also providential because I left in October of 2019 and having no idea the pandemic would hit. And quite frankly, within 6 months, I had friends losing their jobs and because of layoffs. And I would have 100% done that. I was in sales. So God knew, like I had that time with my kids. My husband's in the medical field, so he was not home in the pandemic. He was gone 12 hours a day. His clinic was one of the only ones doing COVID tests at that time. So he was gone, and I'm home with the kids, and I'm like, okay, that worked out. You know, it was hard, but so.
From what you just shared about your background too, it sounds like you needed that level of massive burnout to give yourself the permission to leave. Otherwise, you would have been like, it's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll keep going.
Yeah. And I have to be honest. And we were just talking about this. Like, I have friends now who are working, really wanting a change, but they just can't, for whatever reason. And I'm like, it is really hard what I'm doing, but I wouldn't change it. Because even today, I mean, we record and then I'm going to see my sister and on a play date with my toddler and then back to work. I mean, I have so much to do, but that decision to just allow the flexibility for my family has been so life-giving for us and challenging in its own ways. But yeah.
And so inspirational, I think, for people to hear that, again, it doesn't have to be the 9 to 5 old way of doing it. You're building a super successful company, and yet you're able to do it in a way that works for you and your family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I told you that book I'm reading about Sacred Pace. The guy, he lives in Houston. His company produces $6 billion a year in revenue. And since he started this company, he has never worked more than 40 hours a week. And he has never set a sales goal for his team. And I know anyone in the business world listening is thinking I am insane, because I thought that when I read it. Billionaire. Because he chose, I'm not going to put my family in a terrible spot for my success. And I needed that because I have the tendency, right? If you do the Enneagram, I'm a 3. Like, I'm a workaholic. I love to work, but that cannot come at the expense of my kids.
Yeah. It's funny. I had the same revelation recently thinking about Chip and Joanna Gaines. And you mentioned you went to Baylor, which I know is in Waco, Texas. And I was watching that show that they had done about the hotel they renovated. And I thought to myself, wow, look at these two people who have built, I don't know how much the company is worth, but I would guess millions, if not billions, with everything that all the different business ventures that they have, and so much surrounded around Waco, Texas, which again, if they had said, we have this business plan and this is what we're going to do, I feel like people would be like, it's not going to happen in Waco. You probably need to leave. And yet look at what they've been able to build in a way that is so distinctly for them.
You gave me goosebumps. They're one of my biggest inspirations. She has a book, and reading, just knowing, right? Because her first shop, she shut it down. I don't know if you know this, but their first boutique did not work, and she kept with her vision. And I think about this all the time. And I mean, so I was living in Waco before their time, and it was not the place you would imagine being like a mecca. And now one of my best friends is tennis coach over at Baylor. So I just visited her a month ago. And we're going to like an oyster bar and a donut shop that's open 24 hours and all these like this Hotel Herringbone with like the most cute mid-century modern restaurant. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I was barely able to, like, there was like a Sonic and a Taco Bell. Like, no
Yeah.
offense to them, but
Yeah.
crazy. And that is Chip and Joanna. I mean, they've done
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's incredible.
They've almost created an entire tourism infrastructure. But anyway, we'll digress. We'll chat more Chip and Joanna later. The last thing I want to ask you before I ask you the last three questions I ask everyone. You mentioned your business partner a few times, and I can't believe that you guys met when you were an intern. That just feels so kismet. But looking at the relationship that the two of you have, what do you think is the secret to a successful business partnership? What are the things people should look for when they're saying, I think we could or should go into business together?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I don't know that I would always recommend doing it with your best friend. We have a very unique situation, but I will say the reason it works for us is that we have the foundation of faith together. So like every single morning for us personally, we've started this rhythm and it's new. We talk every morning and we pray together. And like that for me. So make sure your values. I would say that first and foremost, because when big decisions come, you need to share the same values, because otherwise you might have one partner saying, we need to do it this way. And the other's like, that's cutting corners. I'm not comfortable. Like, no, we don't have that. And in fact, the beauty of what we do is like accountability. So I just called her last week and I told her, there was a little bit of crazy. I never thought we'd be in this, but a little bit of extra on the financial side. And I'm like, we could do these couple things with this little bit of extra money. And she is like, here's why I think we should hold on to that. Here's why I think we need to wait for the future. And I'm like, brilliant, thank you. And so I think first and foremost, values, you've got to learn to if you're going to go into businesses with someone, make sure you're comfortable, because I've had to learn this, humbling yourself and hearing that you're wrong, because we have to tell each other, like, I don't think so. If you people please your way through it, you're not going to end up where you want to go. And then I would also say we created this line and it's worked so well for us. So if you go into business with a friend, I used to blow up her phone. This was on me, like texting updates. And then we realized that's really hard. It blurs the lines. So our texts are just for friendship. Our Slack is just for work. Now, sometimes this changes, but on a general basis, our rule is that if we have a work update, it goes into Slack. We see it when we see it, unless it's an emergency. If we have a friend update, that's a text. So I would say drawing those boundaries is really, really helpful. And then she is big and she has taught me so much about communication and just being really upfront. Like, that felt off, or I don't know, what do you think of that? Instead of holding back. I think that's the only way. Yeah.
I love that delineation between text and Slack, something so simple. But you're right, it can get so murky so quickly. So the fact that you guys have been able to say, okay, this is how it's going to work for us, it helps maintain friendship while also ensuring that the business relationship succeeds.
Yeah. It's separate, but not at the same time.
Yeah. So Jasmine, I want to ask you the last three questions that I ask every guest. And the first is, what was the best hospitality experience you've ever had?
Yeah. So this is unconventional. And I've been so blessed I've been all over the world. I mean, I just, being in this industry, you almost pinch yourself at all the places you get to go. I've grown up overseas and this stands out. So actually it would be through our church. And here's why I say that. My husband and I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant with my youngest. We were at a farmer's market. We were looking for a church in our area. We just could not find a place we wanted to settle in. It was very difficult for us. And so we go up to this YMCA. Well, it's a church. It's a church meeting in this YMCA. And instead of them looking at us like these crazy people that my husband's like, my wife's 8 months pregnant, whatever. They're like, how are you? Good morning. I mean, they welcome us in, and they weren't like, come to our church. That wasn't it actually at all. I don't think they said that at all. They just loved on us. And then I meet this girl named Courtney in the bathroom, and she and I ended up, I went to Baylor, and we're like, and she's like, I'm the pastor's wife here. So good to meet you. And so again, no pressure. I left and I was like, do you know that they were more welcoming, kind? They offered us coffee, nothing fancy, but I told my husband, they were more welcoming than any place we have visited. And they weren't trying to push the church on us at all. And so anyway, we drive off and I'm like, well, of course we're going to visit. Well, guess what? We've been there now 2 years. Love this church. I've never seen like open arms, just welcoming like I have in this place. And I'm like, I've grown up in the church, probably the only place I've ever gone to that I could invite anyone and feel like, no, you're going to have a great experience. And that's just because I don't think hospitality has to be, and it can be, this amazing 5-star resort. I think it's about truly how are we making people feel? And that is what matters in the story we tell.
And on the complete flip side of that experience, what was the worst hospitality experience you've ever had?
No. Yeah. And I won't say names, but this is a tech issue. Back in the fall, Stephanie and I stopped over on the way to a conference. We were driving. It was like a 6-hour drive. So we stopped halfway. It's like almost midnight. We found a hotel on Expedia. It was a brand. And we're like, this should be fine. Pull in. It's a little sketch, but we're like, it's okay. We're going to be fine. So the guy's like, okay, I put you in this room. We go in the room. Well, it hadn't been clean, but not just like hadn't been clean. Like, I won't go into detail, but it was awful, like ingrained in my mind, some of the things we saw. So we come out with our suitcases because we're like, oh my gosh, and instead of apologize, and this is the owner of the property, he goes, well, it says on my screen that it was cleaned. And I'm like, no. And we're like, he doesn't know
down
tech, right? And so I'm like, I think your integration doesn't work, or your housekeepers didn't tell you the truth, because it's not clean. Like, I had pictures, and he was, we didn't even get a refund. I mean, he was just like, okay, like, do you want another room? And we're like, no, there's actually a Marriott down the street. We know Marriott's consistent. Like, we're just going to go there. And we just ate the $100 or whatever. Not a huge deal, but awful. Like, I think about it, how bad that was. So yeah, that would probably be my top story of like, hey, make sure your integrations are in place, because that room was not clean.
But not even the integrations, like the fact that he's like, well, on my screen, it says it's right. So, you're probably wrong. Like, okay. Very strange.
I'm sure as a property owner, you're cringing, because what's the first thing you're going to do? Like, you're going to rush to make that right, but no.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You're going to provide the clean room and refund and, do whatever else you possibly can.
Yeah, it was
and
rough.
Final question for you. What does hospitality mean to you? And is there a person, a brand that you feel has truly mastered it?
So for me, it goes back to that feeling that I was talking to a gentleman named Omar Bubes. He owns Studio Circa agency, and he is a storyteller. And he was telling me that it's all about connecting the story to how someone makes you feel. And I think whether it's welcoming people in your home, into your 5-star resort, into your small bed and breakfast, it doesn't really matter. I think it's about the feeling. And I think it's about making someone feel safe, comfortable, welcomed, safe. I think that's what hospitality really means to me. And brand-wise, there's, like I just mentioned, Marriott. I think there's consistency in some of those. I don't think I could peg just one, because I have been so blessed to go so many places. But I think if at the heart, you're keeping in mind, am I making this person feel welcome and safe? Everything else falls into place.
Well, Jasmine, this has been so much fun. Thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Thank you. This has been an honor. It's so good to be here.
All right, everyone. It's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with Jasmine. I find her and Affixify's approach to business, the uncompromised, unbiased marketplace that puts their customers' needs above all, so refreshing in a world that's often dominated by pay-to-play tactics and advertising budget arms races. Beyond the business, I appreciated her perspective on how she moves through life. Jasmine saw a gap in the market, and rather than wishing for a solution to exist, she picked up the phone, called her co-founder, and laid out her vision. She didn't get stuck in the weeds of how she'd make that happen, or even whether she could afford to in the first place. She simply started. She put her head down, she got to work, and she put her all into it, just like she did for her HITEC presentation. One of my favorite takeaways was her suggestion to give yourself a personal progress report. So many of us are stuck in go mode, hyper focused on what we didn't get done today, rather than the litany of things that we probably did. Jasmine's reminder to pause and acknowledge how far you've come feels like advice we all need on loop. And speaking of slowing down, loved her line, "We have more time than we think we do." Whether you're launching an idea, building a brand, or just navigating something new, this is a powerful truth. Time often reveals what truly matters, and Jasmine encouraged us to give ourselves a space to let things evolve. Finally, I was struck by how many fantastic sayings Jasmine shared. For the fellow parents listening, the song Going on a Bear Hunt will never sound the same again. As she pointed out, that children's song holds some surprisingly profound life advice. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We're going to have to go through it. She mentioned how her dad would often tell her to focus on the next stone in the path, and that she and her husband often lean on some gardening wisdom. First you sleep, then you creep, and finally you leap. Sticking with the outdoors, she then said, "Everyone wants the reign of success, but if you never put the seeds in the ground in the first place, nothing is going to come up." All of these sayings, whether they come from childhood songs, a parent's advice, or life in the garden, are stories. And as Jasmine said, hospitality is really about connecting the story to how someone makes you feel. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media @sweetsuccesspodcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.